Hi, I'm Alyssa and welcome to episode 182 of Art This Week. On this week's episode, we begin our coverage of the Moderns exhibition, Mexico Inside Out, Themes in Art Since 1990. Today, we will be speaking with curator Andrea Karnes about the exhibition. And now for Art This Week. Hi, I'm here with curator Andrea Karnes at the Fort Worth Modern to discuss the new exhibit, Mexico Inside Out. Thanks for being here with us, Andrea.
My pleasure.
So this show is a big show. It involves somewhere in the neighborhood of 23 artists?
Yes.
And over 60 works.
Yes.
Took you a very long time to get it together. Would you discuss with us sort of how you first approached the artist about the show?
Sure. I wanted to do an exhibition that introduced our area of Texas to the artists working in Mexico or artists with ties to Mexico, because many of the artists in this exhibition, I had seen their works across the globe in major institutions and major exhibitions, but I hadn't seen that here locally.
Right.
So I started going to Mexico about 3.5 years ago, and I visited with artists in their studios and galleries and museums in Mexico City and actually in other places in Mexico as well. And I started to formulate an idea about the exhibition, and then I discussed with the artists that I would like them to be in the exhibition. And it was a challenging conversation in many instances, because a lot of the artists said, you know, I don't want to be in a survey about a country.
Right.
And so I would explain that it's not a survey, it's a theme show, and that I realized the idea of an exhibition with a country's name in it is problematic.
Right.
But that I wanted to make the big introduction here in Texas, and then we could go into more focused and deeper relationships in the future. But I felt like an introduction was important first.
And speaking of some of those themes that are involved in this show, how did the themes develop? Did it develop as you gathered the artist, or did you sort of have something in mind before you approached the artist?
I didn't have anything in mind first. What I tried to do was identify the artist who I felt like it was important for them to be in the exhibition.
Okay.
And then I started to look across their work and try to pull out some common threads.
Okay.
And their works are all sort of different, they're divergent formally and conceptually, but then they have these moments where they intersect. And I wanted to pick just a broad moment of intersection, or a broad theme of intersection for the exhibition, so I chose the theme of daily life.
The artists that you're working with, all of their works are from 1990 on. Obviously, some of them were more established, Gabriela Roscoe and Francis Ali's and people like that. But the newer artists that have been involved in the show, how did you go about that selection process and finding them?
Well, I found them through talking to the institutions, or actually just visiting museums in Mexico City and seeing some of their works. There's a museum of contemporary art in Mexico City called Curating, and they show young artists for the most part. And I saw some of the younger artists in the exhibition there, or I visited the main galleries in Mexico City and they show some of the younger artists. This work is an example of one of those from the emerging generation of artists.
Are there some direct influences that you can see from some of the more historically anchored artists versus the newer ones?
I think that the young generation represented in this exhibition are directly influenced by the ones in this exhibition who rose to prominence in the 90s and throughout the first decade of the 2000s. So for me, it was interesting. I've worked with emerging artists a lot in my career, so I'm always drawn to that.
Right.
But for me, it was interesting to include them in this conversation, because that's something that had never been done before, not even in Mexico.
Right.
So that made it more interesting for some of the artists to show this multi-generational thread, and to show how some of the early ones have influenced some of the younger ones.
Right, and it gave such a, I know in speaking with Miguel Monroy, he was very excited to be included in a show that has these artists that had influenced his early career. So that's...
Well, he's in a gallery, 2 galleries down, with a few other artists who almost all were students of Joshua Okon, who's in the exhibition, and Joshua's work is right next to that gallery. And Joshua really liked that too when he walked in for the first time, that he was like, oh, these are all of my students. And I said, except for Artemio, because Artemio's piece is in there, and he said, he's my lifelong student. So.
There have been some site-specific installations for this show. Thomas Glassford is one of them. How did you determine who would create something entirely new for this show?
Well, I spoke to them each about what you know, each artist in the exhibition, about what work of theirs or from what series we might want to focus on for the exhibition, and it just became apparent through meetings which ones maybe should do a new project for the exhibition. For example, the space that Damian Ortega's work is in, the volcano, that is and he knew it, that's a very special space within this institution. And we have rarely de-installed Martin Puryear's ladder for Booker T. Washington to put something else in there. So I think that Damian felt that he wanted to rise to the occasion. You know, I explained to him that this was a big deal and it better be worth it to move the Martin Puryear, and he understood that. He understood that he was getting a big, nice space within the museum, and he wanted to, we just both felt that it was appropriate that he do something entirely new that no one had ever seen before for that space.
And many of the artists traveled here in order to help with their installations and just to see the show. How do they feel about it?
I think they feel fantastic about it. Most of them said to me as they walked through that they wish that this exhibition would have a venue in Mexico.
Oh, wow.
And they have said that they can feel the history and they see the lineage, and they also were all reunited here. And they all said to me, we don't normally all get together. This is like old home week in Texas. You know, they hadn't all seen each other. They may see 1 or 2 here and 1 or 2 there of each other, but in a group like that, they just hadn't done it, and they really enjoyed it. They feel honored to be in this building because they know what an important museum this is and what an amazing building this is. And they also just felt happy and relaxed. They were happy with their works and happy to see each other. And I think that all couldn't have gone better.
We want to thank Andrea for speaking with us. For more information on the exhibition, go to themodern.org. That's it for Art This Week. Thanks for watching.
I still got your Polaroid.